Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we're going to be talking about Ripple and XRP. But before we fully jump on into this video, I do just want to ask for all those XRP holders out there, what do you believe that the year 2023 has in store for all of us? In my opinion, I do believe that until around roughly the end of quarter 3 this year, it's going to be an incredible time. By about quarter 4 of this year into 2024, I think things are going to get a little bit rough. And I've actually talked about this in general on where we are at right now, economy wise. The macro is still there. The macro is still there in terms of economic downshift. And I think that it's going to happen roughly within the quarter 4 to about quarter 1 of 2024. But let me know what you guys think that in the comments below. I'd love to hear from all of you guys. But definitely hit that like button if you guys haven't already. And for those out there that are not subscribed to the channel, over 50% of you are not. By the end of this video, if you guys did find the content interesting, maybe you learned something new, definitely hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on to never miss a future update. Now, with all that in mind, let's take a look at what's happening around the economy. So shout out to XRP Crypto Wolf for this, but we do see Lebanon devalues its own fiat currency by 90%. Crypto, this is happening right now around the world. Inflation is roaring, and we are really starting to see these countries get completely destroyed, and their own fiat currencies are now almost worthless. And this is no different story for the US either. Remember, we are starting to see a big issue in the US around the US dollar's dominancy, right? And I've talked about it on how it's being questioned overseas while all these major nations are moving away from the US dollar as well. While the US does not report on it, the US is not trying to defend it at all. They are merely letting it happen. Now, this is concerning because you gotta wonder, like, what is going on? What are they preparing? What are they planning? And we've actually discussed it that it's most likely to launch a US CBDC. They're going to utilize it as an example on why we need a US CBDC, and it's going to back the narrative around launching it. Now, with this, I actually have this video over here from Gold Telegraph, sorry, and we do see, I think we're at the brink that you could have an economic war of sanctions with China that would be shocking to the economy, much worse than the Russian war. The US would weaponize the dollar, which is why China is stockpiling gold. And listen closely to this video. This is Ray Dalio, and yeah, this is very interesting.
Let me ask you a separate question, which is you've talked about China, you just mentioned the renminbi, but when you think about, you also talked about what you think is a potential war, frankly, either economic war or physical war between the U.S. and China, either over Taiwan or other things. Where do you think that sits in this calculus of yours?
Well, there are five types of wars. There's a trade war, technology war, geopolitical influence war, capital and economic war, and military war. We're in the first four of those wars. And you're at the brink. And when I brink, I don't think we'll go over, but we are right at the brink that you could have an economic war with a form of sanctions that would be, if it happened, really shocking to the economy, world economy, much worse than the Russian war. We know Russian war had implications in a lot of different ways. If you have with China, that would be a problem, and also the issue of Taiwan. I think that you're at a point right now that both sides are so scared of that they're working to set a floor. There's not an improvement in relationships. There's not much prospect of that. But establishing a floor, that's what the last Biden-Xi meeting was about. Right. It's why Tony Blinken's going to go over there. It's like, let's not go below that. And I don't think that we probably will go below that. But you can't be sure. At the same time, I think the economic and competitions and so on are going to be very intense.
And we've actually discussed this as well in terms of like what the U.S. is doing. A lot of what the U.S. is doing is being questioned from foreign policy, even from Saudi Arabia. We've been focused on Saudi Arabia for the last couple months because whatever they do next could put in place the next major shift around the global economy. meaning if we start to see the US dollar no longer being utilized in terms like the petrodollar deal, and we see that deal completely wiped off the board, then it's the end of the US dollar. And from there on, we will see significant economy pushes and shifts happening around what's the next stepping stone that we could take for bouncing back. What could we do for the US dollar? They're going to push for the CBDC because even Saudi Arabia has said it themselves that they want to launch a CBDC. All of this will lead to the rollout of the new financial system. And I think that this has already been, set. I think that all of this is one big plan that they have been preparing for a while. As we do focus on what the U.S. has been doing economically, and as we do focus on what foreign nations have been doing economically, it's all centered around stockpiling gold to offset inflation, or that's what their excuse is at least. But we know that the last major time that we've seen a major shift in the economic outlook in terms like the system, the economy itself. We've seen gold buying, stockpiling of gold, and we are starting to see it again now before our eyes. Now we also do see over here from even the Federal Reserve, shout out to XRP, Diamond Hand, rapid changes are taking place in the global monetary system that may affect the international role of the dollar in the future. It is coming, and it is coming very fast. Listen closely to this.
Forward, rapid changes are taking place in the global monetary system that may affect the international role of the dollar in the future. Most major economies already have or are in the process of developing instant 24/7 payments. Our own FedNow service will be coming online in 2023. And in light of the tremendous growth in crypto assets and stablecoins, we are examining whether a U.S. central bank digital currency would improve upon what is an already safe and efficient domestic payment system. As our white paper on this topic notes, a U.S. CBDC could also potentially help maintain the dollar's international standing. Forward, rapid change.
And remember, right? That's what they are going to utilize as an excuse. We need a US CBDC to continue to have the US dollar as a dominant force of nature in the economic outlook globally. But the problem here is, guess what? When we start seeing CBDCs rise, it's not a question on if the US dollar is going to be a dominant reserve currency, because it won't. It absolutely won't. None of these other nations that are launching CBDCs are going to be tied to the US dollar anymore like that. There won't be a global centralized reserve currency. It's going to be a fully decentralized system ran by CBDCs, which will be controlled by the central banks, sure, in their own respective nations, but it's going to be issued out on private ledger technology. And I do believe that gold will play a vital role. I've talked about that as well. Now, as we look into what's happening here, yeah, we are starting to see rapid changes, and we are starting to see the US dollar being questioned in terms of an international reserve currency. Over here, we do see from Truth Crumbs, new CNN business uses term economic reset in a new article on China IPO reforms. Again, as we look at what's happening around the entire economy, we are gearing up for a massive reset. I've been talking about this, and I've been addressing it for a while on this channel, because I talk about this because things are starting to shift. Mainly back in 2020. I remember that the big narrative was around the Great Reset. And the Great Reset has been talked about many times in the past before as well. But 2020 was the year that a lot of things kind of seen, the light of day. And a lot of people realized, like, okay, something big is going to happen. Now, today, more than ever, we are seeing the warning signs of what's coming. We are starting to see the new system being put together before our eyes, while most of the general public is asleep at the wheel. Most of them are just, on autopilot, listening to what the news and what the media tells them. But everyone that's been in crypto and has, or I should say, is in crypto still now, you all see what's happening. You all see the push for central bank digital currencies. You see the role that DLT will play. And yes, I strongly believe that XRP will be vital to this new system as a liquidity source and as an atomic settlement token. We've said this many times. And talking about gold, yes, I do believe that gold is playing a vital role. Gold has been getting stockpiled from the BRICS for a while. The BRICS are leading the way around a new currency that they are creating for trade and also cross-border payments. We do see our breaking news. Russians bought an all-time record number of gold bars in 2022. Many countries are experiencing a gold rush. According to the data, Russians bought over 50 tons of gold bars in 2022, 10 times more than the year before. And then over here, we also do see from SlezCap, the central banks wouldn't be acting this way unless they had strong opinions about the stability of various forms of fiat around the world, something they know a bit about. Going back to that initial statement over here around Lebanon devaluing its own currency by 90%, like currencies are breaking. Fiat currencies are breaking. They are cracking. The cracks are showing. It's only a matter of time before we see the end of fiat before we know it. We've been preparing for this. We've been getting ready for this. I want everyone to realize how close we are. Listening to Ray Dalio say, hey, we're at the brink. We've been at the brink for a while. This is, this has been something that's brewing for a while. Pressure is on. Fiat currencies as we know it are being questioned. The stability of the global financial system is being questioned. Foreign nations questioning the US dollar and the value behind the US dollar. All of this happening in real time as most are just still being distracted by what they are trying to tell you all the time on the media, on the mainstream news networks. Oh, hey, this happened today, that happened today. They won't tell you what's really happening behind closed doors. It will be too late to know what's happening by the time that it's all set in place. Very similar to 2008. Most people got, shocked by 2008 because again, they weren't paying attention. For those out there that are paying attention, we all know what's happening. We've been following up on everything happening around the global economy. We've been paying attention to what the BRICS are doing. We've been paying attention to what the US has been doing. The US has weaponized the US dollar and also the SWIFT network. And now we are seeing everything changing. A currency being devalued by 90% overnight as gold demand hits a decade high. How can you not be paying attention to gold now? The people who issue your local currency seem obsessed with it. And yeah, they have been. We are starting to see a massive shift. We actually do see down here, in order to ease the impact of the shift, banks would be given 5 years to reconstitute the losses due to its devaluation. Like, we are seeing the breakdown of the global economy, while most people are still not paying attention to what's actually happening. And again, China, foreign minister, seeks stronger economic ties with Saudi Arabia. Like I said, once we see Saudi Arabia move away from the US dollar, it's the end. It's the end of this imaginary valuation that we put on the US dollar. It's done. It's finished. So what comes next? What happens next once these things are in place? The new financial system will rise. And guess what? A lot of people will say, resist, resist, resist CBDCs. I want you all to understand that it's easier said than done. We won't have the resources to resist a CBDC, because once we see the end of fiat currency, which in my opinion, we are starting to see it, the new system that rises around CBDCs, around digital IDs, and all this kind of stuff, they will control every aspect of life, meaning food sources, water sources, everything as we know it will be fully controlled. Everything tracked and traced. This is a reality. And, again, CBDCs could go both ways. I've talked about the bad and I've talked about the good. Could we have a society that goes fully digital with CBDCs and we don't have that control narrative and we don't have, things locked behind closed doors with CBDCs being at the forefront of it all? Yeah, sure, we could. But we could also have the bad. We could have things controlled fully. We could have social credit scores. We could have things where, things are fully controlled to the point where you have a budget that you can only spend per month, and you're controlled to what you can buy and what you can't buy. We can have both scenarios, but we have to wait and see what we actually get. We have to wait and see what they actually have planned for us. But we have been watching everything We've been watching the rollout of this new system happening slowly but surely, and soon it's going to start slow, but then all at once, and it's going to be a global harmonized approach to this new system. And with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, share notifications on if you guys want more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. So it's up to you all. Have a beautiful day, beautiful night, wherever you guys are in this beautiful world. It's been Nick. Peace out, guys.